Ladies and gentlemen, one could almost forget about Nvidia's Pascal architecture with all of the hype, of course, surrounding AMD's R9 300 series, specifically, of course, the Fury X, but certainly even the 390X has swallowed up a lot of the news. But we do have a bit of news regarding Team Green. The GP100 is supposedly being taped out on TSMC's 16nm node, which is a good thing, of course. I think we can all agree, whether you're Team Red, Team Green, or a Team I just want the best performance supporter, that 28nm has been around for some time now, and it's done its best, and obviously AMD and Nvidia have done pretty marvellous jobs with managing to pack in that amount of performance, but at the end of the day, shrinking things down are obviously going to help everything out quite substantially. Anyway, more specifically, the big Pascal and GP104 are going to be arriving the second quarter of 2016. There are a couple of caveats. The first is that the GP100 chips will feature HBM2. Now, HBM2 is very much works in the same kind of manner as HBM1, but with a couple of differences. Primarily, it can have considerably more amount of RAM. You can technically have up to 32 gigabytes, assuming you don't find some way to circumvent the limit, much like HBM1 can be technically stacked up to 8 gigabytes, which actually goes above the specification of 4. We've already been through this quite substantially with the R9 300 series video, so I don't want to cover too much old ground. But the biggest thing, of course, is the amount of bandwidth. It's also going to be considerably higher, and we're theoretically looking over 1 terabyte per second. But whether Pascal, I was about to say Maxwell, whether Pascal will actually hit that or not, obviously it does depend on the clock speed and all of the other jazz, but I guess we'll find out. Now, the other point is that we probably won't be seeing that amount for gaming versions of the GPUs, because let's face it, it's insanity. I mean, even in a year's time, right? So let's say we're sitting here in June, July, August time, even September time, which is well over a year at the time I'm recording this time. Games are not going to be using that amount of VRAM. They're just not. Games at the moment, yes, I know there are some that do use over 4. Technically, you can get GTA. There are a couple of others if you really crank up the settings, but they're few and far between. So even if you say that next year we're going to start seeing 6, maybe 8 gigabyte games, it's not going to be 16 gigabytes worth of VRAM unless you're going insane amounts of insane resolutions, and maybe virtual reality plus insane resolutions, blah blah blah. Regardless, the gaming editions of the GP100 are supposedly limited to 16 gigabytes of VRAM, which is still insane. I mean, honestly, it's still massive. 16 gigabytes is just ridiculous. But what else? So the GM200, as many will know, taped out in June, and then hit the stores. Hit the shelves in March the next year. So that was about 9 months, which theoretically makes about sense. That's not to say that it's always that amount of time. Sometimes it's a little bit shorter, sometimes it's a little bit longer, but we can roughly expect Pascal, assuming that the time frames are roughly even. We can kind of guess that Pascal's going to be out the first to second quarter of 2000. Now, of course, there will be architecture improvements. We don't know what they are, but there are rumours that are circulating that we're going to be seeing between 5,000 and 6,000 CUDA cores. So this is going to mean roughly a performance increase of around 50 to 80%, depending on the other architecture improvements that Nvidia managed to squeeze in. So immediately, this does theoretically mean that the game should be able to the GPU should be able to handle 4K at 60 FPS. I would like to point out, of course, that the usual caveats of if you want to then, I don't know, run ridiculous amounts of MSAA or games at that point also are extremely demanding, then maybe not. Like if we see a game like Crisis, the original Crisis, which obviously when it was bought out, it basically brought everything to its bloody knees. It didn't matter if you just bought a new GPU, and people were quite pissed at that. And I didn't mind it. I actually really loved the original Crisis because it was a thing for so long. It was like, you know, even now people make memes of can it play Crisis, and I actually really liked that. And now of course we've got Unreal Engine 4, which is becoming a thing, and other engines are really starting to move to the next generation. We've got CPUs which of course can actually drive them in terms of the amount of draw calls and instructions to the to the GPU, specifically because of DirectX 12 and other APIs such as Vulkan. So it's a really cool time, at least in my opinion, for the PC gaming market. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. I know I've been a bit quiet the last couple of days. It's because I've been absolutely ridiculously busy with the processor review. I've been reviewing the FX series processor plus the motherboard, plus we've had to build the system, had to install Windows, figure out the benchmarking methodology. It sounds really simple, and to be honest most of it has been, but there have been a couple of applications I've not really used, so I'm actually figuring out, you know, what's the best method for us to present it as well. That's another big one. It's like if I'm going to do it, I'd rather do it correctly, but I've got most of the benchmarks done. I need to do some overclocked versions of the benches. I'm not going to do massive amounts because frankly, you know, it's overclocked, and I don't like to go super in depth into overclocking because it's like my CPU might overclock 25%, yours might overclock 45%, and, you know, Jim's down the road might overclock 3% because he just gets screwed over in the silicon lottery. But it is good just to see, you know, how well architectures do scale, whether they scale linearly, whether there's something else that's causing the problem. I think it's kind of nice to see. But anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye for now.